The next speaker, I don't know. I like to tease us little bit. So, मुझे मारिएगा नहीं. Integrating a mission-based culture with HR, and our guest speaker is Malik Ahmad Jalal, CEO, Aman Foundation, and this is a case study on social entrepreneurship. So please put your hands together for this remarkable guest speaker that we have. Malik Ahmad Jalal. You're not here? I'm here. Okay. Okay. Welcome. Over to you.
Thank you.
And you have about 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay.
And when I stand up, that means
that my time is running out.
Yeah.
So welcome again. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's getting towards the late part of the afternoon, so I'll try to keep the excitement up, keep you awake. I think it's important to talk about the context, what we are talking about. Aman Foundation, Pakistan ki one of the largest private foundations hai. We operate in Karachi. We have the largest vocational training center, which is, we graduate about 3,000-4,000 students in a year. We run Karachi's most advanced ambulance care system. Hamari ambulances hai koi 80 to 85 ambulances hain, but they are ambulances with paramedics, doctors. Some of them even have cardiac monitors as well as aapke ICU ki equipment bhi hote hain inke andar. And now we have expanded into Thatta and Sajawal, taking our model over there. We have also partnerships with organizations such as the Gates Foundation, the Packard Foundation. We work in a lot of maternal and child health care programs in Pakistan with a lot of international partners. So what makes our case study very interesting, and my also personal, how my personal also story fits into it, I trained as a chartered accountant from London, firstly, and I was mostly an investment banker. मेरा ज़्यादातर experience private sector का है, and both in America, in London, Dubai, and then I came to head an organization जो कि Aman Foundation है, which primarily works in the social sector. It's an NGO sector, or it's a large organization which is 1,400 employees है हमारे. Multiple programs here, we have spread all across Karachi. So it's about the private sector and the not-for-profit sector, the transition from that makes for a very interesting case study. And most important thing is we are a mission-based organization. I always say that money sometimes makes things simple, particularly for HR, because if you've done well, you've made more money. It's very clear, it's very simple. Sometimes what happens in the not-for-profit world is it's not about the money, it's about impact. And the definition of impact varies from people to people. People's values and people's priorities are different. Now, why this case is relevant to you in the private sector is because I think in the VUCA times, the world has changed very differently in the sense that it's just not about money. It's about values, it's about how do you create synergies to create long-term value for your organization. So it's not about short-term, quarter-by-quarter performance, short-term, quarter-by-quarter outcomes. It's about long-term value creation, value building and culture. So what I'm going to talk about is the case study that of Aman as an organization which started about 8-9 years ago. और हमने उसको किस तरह उसको शुरू में बनाया. But at the same time, it was a startup with limited systems, limited processes, and then in order to transition into what you call a mid-stage company, वो क्या process systems, cultures हमने उसमें introduce किए, and how it is relevant not only to a not-for-profit sector, but a lot of things are relevant to the for-profit sector. I would also add कि जो Peter Drucker था, जो most leading management theory का जो guru है, उसकी जो main observations, उसकी जो findings थी, they came from the not-for-profit sector, and he applied it to the for-profit sector. So what has happened over a period of time is that the not-for-profit sector, by applying those theories, the for-profit sector has become much more efficient. Unfortunately, what we have is a not-for-profit sector which is not very efficient. So what we want to be, Aman Foundation wants to be known as, and what we have tried to do is that we want to be a social enterprise. So we have a social mission, but we want to behave like an enterprise, because enterprises are efficient, enterprises are more innovative, and enterprises are more, in a sense, dynamic. So how do you bring in the culture of both the worlds in order to create something that is better than either one of it? So that is the case study that we have. The model that I'm going to use with you to explain some of the things that we did is this growth model, which is that when an organization has an evolution, हम बच्चे होते हैं, we have certain needs. Then we are a teenager, we have certain different needs. Then we have middle age, then old age. So every organization has an evolution. So when you are an early stage organization, you are very much people focused. That is the most important thing that you have. You get the right person, you get the thing done. Process does not matter that much. It's all about putting the right people in. It's a conveyor belt. You get the people, right people in, and you get the right outcomes. Unfortunately, there is a limit to what you can grow and scale on that basis of that. You need to get to a mid stage, which Aman we are at, which is a very bit process focused. So it doesn't matter who this is. It could be me, it could be you, it could be you. It's the process that matters, and it's not about me. If the process has been followed, whatever is the outcome is what should be implemented. So organization goes beyond a person, it goes to a process. And that's how you can scale, you can get consistency, and you can get quality beyond replicating a person every time. उससे बढ़ के जो चीज़ होती है प्रोसेस, जो बहुत बड़ी बड़ी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन होती है, जी होगी, मैरियट होगा, all these, they even can't be managed on the basis of processes alone. They go beyond the process, they go on values, culture. So they have certain parameters that they have established. People know what is the right norm, behavior they have to do, and they behave according to that. उसके दरमियान में process है, उसके दरमियान में person है. So culture is very important, and I think although I've shown it as a large scale, जहाँ पे culture focus large scale में मैं दिखाया है, culture is easier to build and very difficult to change. Culture is like an aircraft carrier, एक बार एक direction में लग गया, तो उसका change करना is almost very difficult. It takes a shock to the system, it takes huge amount of effort. So I would always say that focus on the culture from the very beginning, and instead of saying okay, one day when we have the money, we'll focus on the culture. And of course HR is the facilitator in the systematic change. All of these curves that I've shown is a change in evolution, and it's a huge change in the way organizations, management, mindsets work. When you move from an early stage to a mid stage to a large scale organization, and HR is a key facilitator, key business partner in these things. It's a little bit about social entrepreneurship, because that is what we are, that is why we are here for. We're about providing a long-term sustainable goal. We're about a person, individual, but providing self-sufficient solutions to global problems. That is what social entrepreneurship is about. That is what Aman Foundation is about. This is a slight bit of journey from which which I've mentioned a little bit before. We have school meals program. As I said, Pakistan's probably the most sophisticated vocational training program called the Aman Tech. We have a community health workers program, as well as telehealth, healthcare services that we offer to people across Pakistan. And we have a management training program focused on young people. So we are a multi-business unit entity, so you can understand there are different segments involved. Healthcare में भी हमारे पास 2-3 units है. Community health workers is one of them. Emergency medical care, the Aman ambulance is another one of them. The telehealth is a third one of them. And then of course we have in education, we have a vocational training institute. So the people, process, and cultural transformation, and I'm going to go a little bit more into each one of them. What did we do for people, what we did for processes, and what we did for the culture. So the people transformation, very important element of that, we want to increase collaboration, because when you are a small organization, you can just focus on yourself. But when you, every person is a winner, basically. But then when you become bigger, you want to operate as a team. Like a football player, football team, you can't just win and score goals every time by yourself. You need to play with others, so you need to collaborate with them. You need to focus on KPIs because you got to measure things, because if you measure things, they will get done. Then talent development is key element of it. Hamare area mein, not for profit area, because we can't and don't have the ability to pay and don't have the brand that Unilevers would have or some of the larger companies would have. So hamare liye talent acquisition, talent retention bahut zyada important hai. We have a certain advantage, of course, because we have a purpose. We have a mission, and that is what we can use to help attract employees. And for that, employee branding, why people come and work for Aman is so important. Uske liye humne, we did a lot of processes, including, we centralized some of the enabling functions. We did engagement survey, and this is what happened when I came into Aman in order to, set the proper systems. We did a job evaluation. I was talking with Dr. Saba just now. We went through a HAZE methodology. 150 people internally got interviewed, because if you want to build a process, people need to trust a process rather than their baradari or the connection or with the person. So you need to give them transparency. You need to give them internal transparency कि हमारे एक system है वो follow होगा, and then you need to give them external transparency, which is external comp benchmarking. So internal and external. We did both of that. We created a very extensive learning and development platform, which included both external training, but a lot of time was internal training. So I have given a lot of training to my colleagues. Our head of internal audit gave trainings to people about auditing different things. So it's all about investing in the human capital of Aman and creating career development plan. The other element is, we created a management trainee program, just like Unilever has, Procter & Gamble has. It's a social sector leadership program. Ye hai takriban 18 mahine ka. We've gotten candidates from LUMS, IBA, who come and work in a social organization like Aman, get very hardcore operations experience, and then they can move on. They either get jobs with us or they can move on. And a very important element, because a social sector organization has to be very gender sensitive, has to be very inclusive in order to do well, because a lot of our beneficiaries are women. So we have to be very sensitive in terms of the environment in which the women would work. So we had gender committee in terms of dealing with any case of harassment, any issue that comes up. We have a zero policy in terms of any gender related matter that comes up on the basis of innuendo, accusation around women. We have terminated people, because we believe that in order to create an environment which is safe, in order to create an environment which is fair, you need to send very strong signals that such kind of behavior will not be tolerated. Jokes, innuendos and all those things will not be tolerated. And we have a gender committee which comprises both of women and men in order to deal with those things in an independent manner. So some of those things we did around people transformation are those. These are some of the visual reflections of that. We have learning cafes in terms of training in project management, in Six Sigma training, measurement, learning and evaluation, finance, accounting. We had people like Mr. Zafar Khan, who's the ex-CEO of Engro. We had fairly large business leaders who have come to Aman, come and talked about value systems, with their experiences, just to create an environment which is learning and investing in people. As I said, we had a Aman Leaders Training Program. This is in the third year now. We have, mashallah, we got, for 10 positions, we got 400 applicants to the program. And we've just recently now shortlisted about 15 people to join the program. As I said, most of the people come from top universities across Pakistan. Then the thing about the process transformation, because the processes are there, but they need to be refined and they need to be improved. So that basically means the organization structure has to be changed, enhanced accountability. You cannot build an organization which is trusted without processes and a system whereby you can measure performance, you can reward on the basis of performance. So objective setting is very, very important, and accountability is very important. So not only we have a yearly appraisal, हमारा 6 monthly tune in होता है, which is not like an appraisal, but you tune in to get early feedback from your boss and to set your objectives or modify your objectives for the next 6 months. We have an upward feedback mechanism which works through HR. We have an internal grievance system. Okay, you have to go to your boss. If you can't go to a boss, you can go to head of HR, internal audit, myself, or the trustees who are the board of directors. We have even a hotline which is independent of Aman, which is outside of us, which is actually in London. So you can lodge any complaint, internal or external, against any employee, and that goes directly to head of HR and the head of internal audit. So that is the process that we did. And that involved a lot of data capture. Again, a lot of things were done manually. We brought a lot of those things onto the IT system. We outsource a lot of payroll because a lot of organizational bandwidth is spent. हम लोगों को पेरोल करने में उसमें लगी हुई होती है, तो हमने HRIS का एक सिस्टम है डेसिबल, उसको हमने आउटसोर्स करवा दिया ताकि we just focus on more on talent management and talent design. As I said, KPI settings and performance management system was put in place, and I personally had to go out in the field and engage a lot of us for field staff. Hamara culture thoda sa, we have to also understand, and particularly for me it was a challenge because I came mostly, lived abroad, worked abroad. Those countries are high social capital countries. Wahan pe generally people trust what you say. If you say I'm going to do this, people's assumption is you will do it. Hamara culture mein is the opposite of it. A lot of times, if you say you're going to do it, people will think you will never do it. It's the opposite. So you got to engage a bit more, and actually a lot more than you would do in a Western setting and everything. It's just the nature of things and just what it is. So aapko as a leader, one has to engage much more with the people, and उनके साथ ज़्यादा टाउन हॉल में अपने आप को उनके साथ ज़्यादा इंगेज करने की ज़रूरत पड़ती है. You know, and part of the process was the development of the policies. As I agreed, I said grievance, complaint handling, whistleblowing policy, conflict of interest. Again, every year, our employees, including myself, sign a declaration which goes through whatever conflict of interest that you may have vis-a-vis vendors, vis-a-vis employees who are your relatives and everything. And it is, you know, if you don't tell the right thing on it, then it is something that could be taken up by the HR committee. So we take that process very seriously, and it applies to me as much as ये किसी किसी के ऊपर होता है. थोड़ा सा आपको more kind of technical stuff, you know, the famous or the dreaded bell curve. Everyone hates it or loves it. और हमारे ज़माने में शुरू में bell curve was quite skewed. Everyone was exceed expectation of 60-70%. So we worked a lot in order to change that and give the ownership to managers and just explain to them कि वो किस तरह bell shape को more balance कर सकते हैं. So some of the work we've done that. उसके अलावा मैंने the job evaluation. I talked about the Hayes methodology. What we did in terms of evaluation, as I said, we had interviewed over 121 jobs, were evaluated, and so many people were employees were identified. Myself, the senior management, we had an offsite about 1.5 day outside of Aman, in which we stacked people into different levels in order to make sure that, you know, there were no grievances when it came to that. This is the हमारा information resource system है. So some examples from our town hall. Again, थोड़ा सा और कल्चर ये हो जाते हैं. There's also a culture danger of head office versus field office का कल्चर बहुत डेवलप हो जाता है. Head office people have certain strengths and field में ज़्यादा काम हो रहा होता है. So field वाले कहते हैं जी head office वाले हमारे से आके engage नहीं करते, हम ज़्यादातर काम करते हैं. So you know, one has to go out in the field and go and work there. We had a monthly newsletter which we came out and share with people about the work that we were doing at the Aman Foundation. Then lastly is the cultural transformation, which is all about values. So what are the values by which we would be known as? And this is the most critical, most important. आप सब कुछ कर लेंगे, अगर वैल्यू सिस्टम अगर आप अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का सही नहीं कर सकेंगे, so things will not happen the right way. And in that we did something called the Mera Aman campaign. We're going to talk about that, what we did on that. We did that. Then we identified champions. We called them the Aman champions. These were people who bought into those values. These were your champions. They went out of the way in order to implement the changes. We engaged their families through carnivals, talent shows, Christmas celebrations. We celebrate all different religious occasions that we have, because we have a very mixed worker force. Because of the fact that we work in healthcare, we have a very fixed. So hum sabko hum celebrate karte. This was the campaign that we did. We did it with Carnelian. Some of you may have heard of the name of the company. These were the 4 values that were identified, and these were the things that came up from the grassroots up, which was collaboration, integrity, ownership, and passion. And the word Mera Aman symbolizes the importance of each employee owning the success and responsibility of fulfilling Aman's vision of transforming lives. I think ownership is something which is not easily ingrained. And so in order to do that, we created this campaign through Mera Aman. All 1400 employees हमारे जो थे वो Mera Aman की values training के through हुए थे. We have a training of trainer program, and we managed to do that. And it's not just values as high level fluff that people talk about and people don't know what it means. So we distilled it down into what it actually meant in terms of action. So positive, passion means positive, energetic. Collaboration means actively listens and respect viewpoints of others. बहुत सी feedback आ रहा था जी लोग सुनते नहीं हैं बात, talking over each other, all those things. So you know we made sure that people understood what were the values that हम चाहते हैं लोगों के अंदर हों, और what represent good Aman employee. Integrity means open, honest, and displays ethical behavior. Openness is very important. हमेशा अपना point of view नहीं enforce करना, दूसरों के भी point of view से आप लोगों की बात सुनना है. Again, as I said, to build that culture of oneness, we held a lot of picnics, cross-departmental integration, and Christmas celebrations that we have done. Then internal competition for fundraising for Aman. We had and then we have Aman internal engagement awards.
We don't have time anymore.
Fine. Let me just go my last slide. Okay. So I think those are the three, 4 things that we did. I think what it takes for a successful HR team, I think, is market oriented and operations oriented, meaning very execution focused. I really like HR people who have worked in non-HR functions. Because उनको थोड़ा सा एक what it feels to be in the operations team, they have that sense of it. So I think if people can second from HR into non-HR functions, that's a good thing. It's build systems and institution. HR is the guardian of the processes. They should see themselves at that. Execution, meaning HR is not about thinking, it's a lot about doing and making sure things get done. And then I think a lot of things that we discussed in our panel earlier on is that it has to be 100% aligned with the CEO and the business strategy. Normally hota ye, a senior HR person can really go in a different direction and do things in a silo. But that's why I think a head of HR should be part of XCOM. So they are understanding the business constraint. Unko pata hai ki kya ho raha hai. Have regular reviews of the CEO. They have to work very closely together. I'm a firm believer that a head of HR is one of the top 3 people within an organization, particularly in the work. And then focus on culture and values, which is again internal engagement. A lot of internal engagement that we've done was not run through Marcoms, it was driven through HR. ये बड़ा important है कि HR owns the culture element of it and not just the performance evaluation and everything, the fun part of it as well as the more difficult evaluation part of it. I think that's all that I have.
That we had to interrupt.
No, thank you.
Because we were managing time, and taking time away from somebody else would be injustice.
Fair
because we want to end it.
No, this is my last slide, so we've made it in good time. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, sir. Please don't go away. Please don't go away. We still have you have already received a memento, but we still take
I have to carry it to Karachi.
Good. Asfar, एक तस्वीर के लिए तो आ जाएं, please. तस्वीर के लिए आ जाए. I know you have received the memento already. So, but तस्वीर के लिए आ जाएं please. Asfar. And my apologies for interrupting. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.